here we go again, another episode of Chicago Hill. And you know, Mark and Meleika, you guys have become a little bit secretive lately. And so have I.
What?
Yes. We forgot to tell people where we coming from. I'm coming from the west side of Chicago, the Austin community, and I'm excited about today's conversation because I think it's a conversation that we have to have, and it's going to be about UFC. Just stay tuned and listen to what we're going to be talking about. But white guy, Mark, where are you coming from?
I am coming from the racially integrated suburb of Oak Park, just to the west of you, Representative, and things are all sunny and nice here in our neck of the world.
Oh, white people, I tell you, to be white in America.
Yeah. What's it like to wake up white?
But look, being white wouldn't mean anything without black people. Who would we be superior to?
You know what? I think that has been clearly played out in America. Without black, what will white be? Meleika, what's your white people like? Where you?
Oh, well, normally I would say, it's a beautiful day up here on the North Shore, but we had a situation up here, a mass shooter, something that no one in a million years would think would happen up this way. I'm in Evanston. The situation happened in Highland Park, which is like 14 miles away. And people are always like, "Oh, that'll never happen up here." But we have issues. We do have issues up here. And I just think it's interesting now. It's like this real fight to ban assault rifles now that it's happened to Highland Park. Nobody gave a damn when it was happening throughout Chicago, like every day. I just find that interesting.
We had a conversation, Meleika and Mark, about assault rifles, assault weapons. Mark, you had some thoughts on it. Because the Republicans will say that there are long guns, assault rifles, long guns. What did you say in the previous episode, Mark, about a long gun versus an assault rifle?
I don't even remember. You always ask me to quote myself, and I think it's more memorable to you than it is to me.
Well,
what did I say, Rep?
You talked about how Republicans often tried to change the narrative about guns. A long gun is a gun that's used but an assault rifle is one that's used for, what's a long gun, Mark?
Well, I think, long guns, we assume are just rifles that are used for hunting. And when we think hunting, we think hunting animals. I think an assault rifle's used more for hunting people.
Absolutely. Could you imagine, Meleika, today in war, we take a long gun to fight in a battle? They did use long guns back in World War. When did they? Of course, in World War I, right? And then things went. That's about when. In the Civil War, of course, you had these long guns that were used, and they didn't have assault rifles. That the AK, what is it, 45s? I don't know my gun.
AK-47 and the AR-15.
Look at Meleika. Mark, we gotta watch her. She's naming them out. She's putting them out like an assault rifle.
Nothing like a few mass shootings to get you to know the name of different guns.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, it's definitely not a musket anymore.
Yeah.
But I really have a little bit of a dilemma that's come up within that respect, and I don't know if it's pertinent to the conversation today, so maybe we'll want to pause and talk about it later. But I was talking to a good friend of mine, somebody I knew pretty well, and I didn't know this aspect of his life. And he said, "Yeah, we went shooting this weekend." I said, "Shooting what?" He said, "Well, I've got a couple. I've got an AR this and an AK that, and we took him down to the quarry, and we just went crazy with him. We were, shooting at targets, and we just had a good old time. And it was clearly sort of something that a group of these guys does every so often, like some other guys might go get a beer at the bar, or go watch the game. And I really had a dilemma, because this is somebody who is a very upstanding citizen, who a family man, and he really enjoys his assault weapons. And so I just, in my head, I'm thinking, well, who am I to tell him not to do that? Who am I to tell him that he can't do that? So yeah, I wonder if either of you has any advice for me in my moral struggle here. Is a person allowed to have fun with these weapons, just go shooting, or is it just they're what do they say? Your right to swing your arm ends where my nose begins. And so where do his rights to have those weapons end?
Well, Meleika, we talked about before, and Meleika said ban all of these weapons, and
I did too.
Ban them. And in fact, your friend said, "Let's go crazy with it." Like, what? What? With all that's happened, I mean, then why not allow people to have hand grenades? Just blow everybody to bits. I mean, some things should just, no, it's not a freedom. It's not a choice. No, you can't have that. No.
So now I'd say, when you look at hunting, now, once again, everybody has free will. Guns are here to stay. They're not going anywhere. And it's out of our control at this point. But he does have a right to do it. And that when we look at what's harming us in society, we have to ask ourselves, are we willing to give up some of our luxury for life? And so if I had a choice to say, I'm going to give up this luxury of having the ability to hunt with assault rifles versus saving a kid's life, whether in Highland Park or the west side of Chicago, which will I pick? I'm going to give up the AK-47 and save some lives. And so it's all about us looking and doing what's good for us all. And that's where I stand on it.
I'm with you on that. It's the same with cigarettes. Remember, people could smoke in restaurants and on the plane, and people were getting sick, and oh my goodness. And so they put a ban in public places. I wish they put a ban on cigarettes altogether, because we know that they kill eventually. But yeah, certain things you just, if it's harming people, it should not be allowed. It should be
I
banned.
I had the good fortune of working with State Representative Ford on that issue of smoke-free Illinois
Yeah.
some years
Cool.
ago when I worked for a public health organization. And in fact, one of the arguments that the cigarette companies used was freedom
Yes.
of choice. Because, it's hard to say, well, go ahead, people, and smoke those cancer sticks that are going to kill you. So they argued about, well, why can't grown-ups make their own decisions and each person can do what they want? And so there's a smoking section and there's a non-smoking section. And they just tried so hard to be like, well, those who smoke can be in the smoking section and the non-smokers can be in the non-smoking section. And the health groups really struggled with that argument. One of the points we made was that, well, of course, working people don't have that choice. They have to work whatever section they're assigned in. And, it's hard to tell people, well, either put up with this deadly gas at your job or go find a different job.
Mhm.
But again, it was hard. So we had to come up with sort of a great example of, why this was such a bad idea. So finally, something occurred to me that kind of stuck. And what I started telling people when they were using this smoking section argument was, well, having a smoking section in a restaurant is like having a peeing section in a swimming pool.
Right. Well,
That's a good one.
Mark, I would tell you that you actually lobbied the legislature on this, and I was for free will. And I believe in the free will of a person, and I wasn't sold on it. And I think because I said I was one of the people that said, well, guess what? A person don't have to go to a restaurant that allows smoking. And that's right. But then the legislator that I am, I keep my powder dry and I try to listen to everyone. Then, Mark, I know you sent these kids to me. So the kids came to my office and there had been, I would say, millions of dollars spent to lobby the cause. I wasn't sold until the kids came and said, now it makes me wonder if you really sent them, because they said, my mother is pregnant and she's got to have that job. And there's nothing she could do if someone lights up a cigarette at that job. She's got to go to work. Instantly, I said, I'm for the ban, because when that student came in and lobbied, not paid by any organization, and spoke the truth, that was speaking truth to power. And immediately I was sold and I became a co-sponsor of that bill.
One good human story is worth a million lobbyists sometimes.
Yes. Thank you for doing that, because my early 20s, I worked in nightclubs. I had to quit each one because I would get so sick from the cigarette smoke. So thank you. Thank you both.
Yeah, that wasn't an easy vote even then. So thank you for that, Representative Ford. Looking back on it, I think it ended up just fine. People were pulling their hair out. We're going to go out of business. Smokers are the drinking business, and, alcohol and cigarettes go together. And then we had the arguments about, well, gambling and cigarettes go together, and how are people going to gamble and sit at that machine if they have, if they can't smoke, they're going to have to go out and, smoke, which is going to make them gamble less. And there was all sorts of stuff. as far as I know, not one business that claimed they needed smoking to survive has actually gone out of business,
Right.
or at least for that reason.
Not for that reason. No. No.
Yeah,
No.
you know, and you know what? Bringing that up, it's a perfect example of, we tried to do everything that we can, and Meleika, great job of drawing the parallel to smoking and guns. We will be able to survive if we sort of give up some of our freedom as related to guns in this country, because I believe the work of Mark and those students, because of that, I haven't seen any studies, but I bet you the rate of lung cancer and secondhand smoke has decreased.
At least for hospitality employees, it has for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. It put me in the hospital. I was a youngster working in a nightclub, all that cigarette smoke. I didn't know what was going on with my health.
Mm.
And they did an x-ray of my lungs, and the guy was like, "You're a smoker?" I was like, "No, it's all from secondhand smoke. It has an impact."
Is it giving up our liberty? Is it giving up our liberty, or is it really allowing our liberty to flourish because we have the ability to enjoy it and live longer? So, a great parallel. But I think, Meleika, you also said something that I think has been very controversial between races, and that's races of people and the way people are treated and others are not. Highland Park versus Chicago. You said, what did you say?
It's amazing how all of a sudden there's this real fight now to ban the assault rifles because the mass shooting happened in Highland Park, whereas, I didn't hear any of those people crying out when all of these Black children were being killed in Chicago, like every day, every weekend. It's a crazy number of young people being killed. And not just one here, one over here. I mean, it's like several being shot, killed, shot. And you didn't really hear this outpour, this outcry that we've got to stop this. We've got to ban these assault rifles. I mean, you would hear it from the community itself, the Black community itself, but you really wouldn't hear it from communities like Highland Park. Like, it's like they didn't give a damn. It was like, it's not us. It's never going to happen here. We don't have the issues that Black people have.
Well,
that's how it came across to me.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Meleika, and this is the honest truth. I've polled some Black people, and I found it alarming of the number of people that I polled. The number of people that I polled in the Black community were not for banning assault rifles.
So when they're on TV saying stop the violence, this has to end, this has to stop, then what are they saying?
I mean, there are some parents that have been victims of violence, and they may be the ones, but I think we have some work to do in our own community. And I think I give kudos to the Highland Park community for seeing something and saying something and doing something, not settling and saying, hell no, this is not going to happen again in our community. So just like white people, Hispanics, you name it, have taken the page from the civil rights movement and giving liberty and justice to their cause, there's nothing wrong with it. Let's join in with Highland Park and say, we too feel your pain. We want to also go to Washington, D.C., go to Springfield, and demand an end to the sale of these assault rifles. It's not them against us, it's us against the evil people. And so we have allowed for this situation in Highland Park to pit Black people against white people while evil continues to run rampant on the west and south sides of Chicago.
Well, the good thing that's come out of it is that because it happened in Highland Park, it feels like things are starting to move in a direction to ban the assault rifles, to get rid, stop some of this violence on some level to some degree. But it took all this time, and it took for it to happen to a certain community for the needle to even feel like it, oh my God, it might move. We might make somewhat of a difference that's going to have an impact on Chicago. But it's been happening for years, every weekend.
But where are we as a race of people standing up, demanding better for Black people?
I believe we have. I mean, we hear us out there. We're out there picketing. We're out there doing marches in our own community to stop the violence. But is anybody listening to us? It became normal. It became normal. So now Black people are like, well, 50 more were killed this weekend. Lord, what are we gonna do? And then you just change the channel and keep it moving. It's become normal. It's become normal for kids to lose their classmates. It's become normal for people to lose their parents to gun violence. It's become normal. For us, it's become normal. But for Highland Park, that's not normal. Like, oh hell no, this ends today. But for us, we have been crying out. We've been doing the marches and going to our legislators like we need to do something, let's do something. But there was no support. But now it's happened to Highland Park. Now it's like the world is supporting. I mean, people got $1 million GoFundMes. You know what I'm saying? It's amazing. It's amazing. And I'm not pitting us against each other, white and Black, but I'm just saying it just goes to show some lives are valued more than others. So we've been crying for years, crying literal tears, crying for help, and couldn't get it.
The issues in the Black community, though, as far as I'm concerned, actually make this whole issue of guns a little bit more difficult, a little bit more gray rather than black and white, if you will, for a number of reasons. One is, and I think Representative Ford sort of alluded to it just now, but one is that I think that the Black community is much more conservative than people would assume it is. Yes, the Black community might generally vote Democratic, but they are also a very church-going community and a very sort of conservative family values based community. And so, there are a lot of people in the Black community who oppose gun control. And think that they should, that legal owners should have guns to be able to protect themselves. We've seen a few instances where people have protected themselves when accosted by an armed assailant. The other part of it that really sort of the rub here, and by the way, I don't question that things change when rich people want them to change more than they do when regular people want them to change. So I think that that's generally true, Meleika, but I do believe that there is some ambivalence in the Black community, maybe more so than among white liberals, particularly on this gun control issue, because of the crime and the sense that people need to protect themselves. And I think that's maybe some of what Representative Ford was picking up in the community. But also, here's the thing, though, that most people getting shot on a normal weekend are getting shot by handguns. Most people are not getting shot by assault weapons. In Chicago, you don't see people bringing long guns to the beach, or to the bean where shootings happen. That's all weapons you can conceal and carry, which would be so. To me, most of the problems, most of the deaths caused in the Black community on a typical weekend, shall we say, are not assault weapon related. They're handguns. And handguns are just a lot harder to pick on because they're not assault weapons. And so I think that in and of itself causes a dissonance on both sides. I think that for us, when somebody's shot by an assault weapon, do we focus on the first word or the second word? Do we focus on assault or do we focus on weapon? Right? And the other part of it is, how do you explain to people that who are, the gun rights people, the gun, over my dead body, will you come and get my gun? How do you explain to them that we don't want all their guns, right? Because I think that once we start talking about gun violence caused by handguns, these people think they're going to take all our guns away. They're going to start with the automatic weapons and they're going to move on down, till we have nothing but, sticks to protect ourselves with. And so, and of course, that's a ridiculous argument because we do have the Second Amendment, but especially, the other part of it is that given the current composition of the Supreme Court and what we've seen recently with that court, one wonders whether any kind of weapons restrictions will stand up when they actually get to that court, because these people like to read they're literalists. They think the Constitution should be written literally, and they believe that people who wrote a document when there were muskets would do just the same when there are AR-15s. And to me, that's just stupid. I wish I could say to the Supreme Court majority, don't be stupid. How can you be so stupid? Because again, how can you read that part of the Constitution and take it verbatim, but then say, well, of course, Black people are people. They're not 3/5 people like the Constitution said. And so that's part of what worries me. What part of the Constitution are they going to read literally next?
Yeah. That's why we got to vote, to put the people that know how to read the law better. And so I want to go back to the fact that, Meleika, you said that we have been crying, but in previous episodes, I've said January 6th was an example of people trying and not giving up and demanding that change takes place. And it's playing out on the news every day. Could you imagine Black people and people that stood for freedom and justice for people in these communities stood up, and it played out on the news every day about how they went to Washington, went to their state capitals to demand justice for lives that have been lost in these urban cities? That's, and we don't have to wreck the place, but you can't quit. You got to keep fighting. And I'm just going to say, I know we're going to go on some on another and play some clips, but where are Michael Jordan, Oprah Winfrey, the Black billionaires, Kanye West, Beyonce, all the Black people to fund the movement? We have given them so much, and yet they sit back in their big old mansions, drive their fancy cars, and they don't come and help Black people in these urban communities. Now, that's a shame. And I also have to say that when we look at Highland Park and we look at Evanston, Meleika, we talked about this before, taking time to heal. In Highland Park, they ain't getting ready to have no more shootings. They are on the road of healing. In Chicago, we are still getting gunned down in our streets with no time to heal because the trauma continues. And so my question is, what do we do? Who do we get help from in this fight to end violence in Chicago? Well, federal government, the IRS, they've used criminals to actually help them in cases to stop white-collar crimes. The FBI also used moles to help them bust criminal activity. So they use people that's criminals to help them.